Just very quickly, a bit of background. The IEA set up its first center outside of the Paris headquarters in its 50-year history, and we were set up this year. There's a team of 5 of us based here in Singapore working with our colleagues in Paris. Really a recognition of Southeast Asia's role in being a key player in the global energy scene. For the IEA, our Regional Cooperation Center really offers a platform for us to deepen our discussions with stakeholders in the region, with the governments, other regional organizations, the finance sector, the industrial sector, on what are the key issues to help drive decarbonization for Southeast Asia. Today we wanted to do a very quick summary of a report that we released last month on energy and AI. We've really found it as a very hot topic for AI. You know, over the last decade, you've seen AI grow from being a topic that was really sitting in the academic researchers, you know, in the universities, to now becoming a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And it's used by many of us in our daily lives. There have really been 3 trends that have combined to drive this new urgency and focus on AI. Firstly, the cost of ever more powerful graphic processing units have really fallen exponentially. Secondly, the data availability has surged, particularly with the use of the internet. And then finally, we've seen remarkable breakthroughs in technologies that have allowed the training of ever larger and smarter and powerful AI models. So since 2006, the amount of computing power used to train leading AI models has grown by 1 trillion times. So you really start to see AI emerging as a general purpose technology, one that's, you know, affecting all sectors of the economy and obviously for us in our daily lives as well. There were 2 key things that we were interested in doing this report. Firstly, we saw that as tech companies and governments were planning the rollout of data centers that were needed to power this growing demand for AI, that there was an awareness of the amount of energy that was needed in order to sustain the AI industry. So there is no AI without energy. But at the same time, AI really has the opportunity to transform the energy sector from 3 lenses. So firstly, in terms of energy optimization. So how can we use AI to be more smart about how we manage our buildings, from heating and cooling? We heard also earlier this morning about the potential role of AI in enhancing and managing our grids, which is going to be critical. There's also a role for increasing efficiency from an industrial point of view as well. The second key area is in terms of energy resilience. We're already starting to see the use of AI to do things like identify risks for potential infrastructure from a remote sensing point of view. And then thirdly, energy innovation. So how can we use AI in innovating, you know, things like the material sciences, the composition of batteries, EVs, etc. Because there was limited data on both of these sides of the equation, the IEA decided to write this report. We were very, very fortunate to have a lot of deep discussion with all of the key industry players, all of the hyperscalers, Meta, Google, etc., Microsoft, lent us a lot of their data, which really enabled us to create some of the exciting insights which we'll share with you today. So we're going to focus on 3 main themes in today's session. Firstly, just how much electricity AI is going to use in the next decade. Secondly, what are the sources that will fuel that energy demand? And then finally, we will look at the implications of energy security and emissions. So let me start by setting the scene on data centers. So we've seen as AI models have grown in capability, size, and usefulness, the investment and interest in data centers to use to train them have doubled since 2022. And in 2024, it reached $500 billion of investment. What that investment surge has also shown us and has been concerned is about how that growing electricity demand of data centers. There have been 2 very interesting characteristics. So firstly, the location of data center. So in the report, we mapped every single commercial data center in the world, and we compared them to all of the existing other energy infrastructure. And the results were really clear. On average, the data centers are much more spatially concentrated, and they tend to cluster closer to cities. Secondly, data centers are also getting larger. So today, the average size hyperscaler uses the amount of electricity of 100,000 households, but the largest under construction would consume 20 times as much, and the one that's currently proposed would consume as much as a large city. So as a result of these two things, the concentration as well as the increasing size of data centers, there are some challenges that we can already foresee in terms of the impact on grids, and we already know that grids are a real issue. We heard today from the senior minister, there is no transition without transmission. Let me just zoom into the region. We do see Southeast Asia is emerging as a hub for data centers. We find that data center clusters are here in Singapore. We see them in southern Malaysia, to a lesser extent, starting in Jakarta and Bangkok as well. I think the case of southern Malaysia is quite interesting because a lot of that growth is driven by demand actually from Singapore, both from the government here, but also from Singapore-based companies. Just hand over to you.
Thank you. So I'll now take you through some of the electricity demand and supply implications of the growth in AI and data centers. So this chart shows the electricity demand from data centers today, which is around 400 terawatt hours. And this has been growing rapidly in the years since 2017. Going forward, the demand continues to grow. By 2030, electricity demand from data centers doubles to almost 1,000 terawatt hours. To give you a sense of scale, this is more than the annual electricity consumption of Japan today. Most of this demand growth will be driven by servers which are optimized to run AI models, but this is not the only source of growth, and there's a growth in conventional servers as well. And it's important to contextualize this growth within wider energy sector trends and drivers. So you can see on the right-hand side, there are two stories emerging. First of all, in emerging markets and developing economies, electricity demand in the economy is already growing fairly rapidly, driven by sectors such as industry and households. For example, the widespread adoption of air conditioning units. And so in these markets, data centers are just one of many sources of electricity demand growth and contributes a relatively small, under 10% proportion of overall electricity demand growth to 2030. It looks a bit different in advanced economies. In these countries, the rate of electricity demand growth in the wider economy is not quite as fast, and so the growth in demand from data centers forms a larger percentage of overall demand growth. So over 20% in advanced economies, and in the US, which is the largest market currently for data centers, it reaches over 40%. So how will this demand be supplied? Our modeling shows contributions from a mix of sources, with renewables forming the largest share by 2035. But there are also important contributions from nuclear and conventional sources of generation as well. This, of course, looks different by region. So in Europe, you see a large contribution from renewables, whereas in the US, China, Japan, you see a larger role of nuclear. And this is what it looks like in Southeast Asia. Firstly, taking a look at the demand trends. Between 2025 and 2030, electricity demand from data centers in the region more or less doubles. During this period, most of that demand is met through natural gas and coal generation. But if you look beyond 2030 towards 2035, then renewables start to grow more rapidly. So it's important to say at this point that there are several factors which influence these projections and outlooks. For example, the extent to which AI is actually adopted in the economy at scale, the potential for further innovations in the sector, macroeconomic conditions, the rate of energy efficiency improvements in servers, and potential constraints placed on the growth of data centers from the energy sector itself. All of these factors create uncertainty, And because of that, we've actually modeled 4 different cases for the adoption of data centers to kind of show different sensitivities to those different factors. Everything that we've shown so far is from our base case, but if you want to look into our other scenarios, then you can take a look into our report. So now I talk about the implications of AI and energy security. First of all, on the material inputs to data centers, rare earths and galliums are important material inputs to advanced electronics and next generation computer chips. And the supply chains and refining capacities of these elements are very concentrated. Next, on cybersecurity. Over the past 4 years, cyber attacks on energy utilities have tripled. Partly, the sophistication of these attacks can become more sophisticated due to AI, but AI can also play a role in defending against these attacks and increasing cyber security. And lastly, on the implications of constraints on the energy sector on the adoption of data centers. Our modeling shows that right now, up to 20% of planned data center capacity could be at risk of delay due to constraints in the electricity sector. And this is due to reasons such as longer and more complex connection queues for data centers, the relatively long planning cycles for transmission infrastructure when compared to the relatively faster pace that data centers can be deployed, and supply chain constraints in transmission and power generation infrastructure. Last slide now. We also modeled the implications of the adoption of AI and the growth in data centers on energy emissions. And these are the emissions from electricity consumed in these data centers. The chart shows the modeling for our highest case, which is the most ambitious case for the adoption of AI in the economy. And we see that emissions from the electricity use can rise to almost 500 megatons of carbon equivalent. That's a rise from 180 megatons today. That's only one side of the coin, and we also have to look at the potential applications of AI in the energy sector as well. As you mentioned earlier, it has applications in areas such as grid management and optimization, in industrial process efficiency and energy efficiency, optimization in the transport sector, and also in energy innovation as well, and it has a role in research around innovative materials, battery chemistries, carbon capture molecules, etc. And lastly, we would also say that there are potential rebound effects from AI applications in the economy. One example of this is, for example, if autonomous vehicles get adopted widely, it might drive a mode shift away from public transport. These third-order effects are inherently quite hard to quantify, and so we don't put a specific number on it. So we can see from this slide that AI has potential challenges, but also opportunities in terms of emissions in the energy sector. I'll end there. Thank you for your attention, and please look into our report if you want to know more.
So we're happy to take any questions, if there are any. Otherwise, we will let you go and enjoy your lunch. And no Google, you cannot ask any questions. Okay. No questions? Excellent. Thanks very much.